Okay, so once the marzipan has dried for hopefully at least a week, we can put the royal icing on. So this is royal icing that I made yesterday, so that it's had time to relax, and I'm just giving it a gentle stir to remove any air bubbles. And have added glycerine to this so that it doesn't set rock hard. So using a palette knife, take a small quantity at a time and apply it to the sides by scraping off from the top edge, and then just using a paddling action, which again helps to just press out any air bubbles. And we go all the way around the cake in this manner. Okay, so the whole way around the cake, and then just smooth it out with the palette knife. Take off any excess. At this stage it's a good idea to just take off any excess from the top as well. And it's quite easy to do because obviously the top's not ice, so we can just scrape against it. And then to get a really good smooth finish, we use the scraper. And the way I do it is I start, if this was a clock, up at 12 o'clock with both hands, and as I move my left hand to the anti-clockwise, I move my right hand clockwise, and hopefully we then meet down at 6 o'clock. Which means I've only got the one. You'll always get a line where you take off. We can smooth that out later when it's dried, but you've only got the one. Okay, if you've then got a little bit more excess on the top, depending on how hard you were pressing, you can just nick that off again. And that's the first coat finished of the sides. So that needs to dry for at least 12 hours. And then we'll do the first coat on the top. Okay, once the side coating is dried for at least 12 hours, you can do the first coating on the top. So again, give the icing a stir to get rid of any air bubbles. Nice big dollop on the top. A little bit more. And just sort of do a paddling action to spread the icing around the surface of the cake. I'll just transfer to my palette knife for that. So I'm turning the board as I do this to help spread the icing. Okay, and just roughly smooth around the surface with the palette knife, and then take off the excess from the sides. And you can see now why we have to wait for the sides to dry before doing the top of the cake. The next stage, you need to pull the cake board a little closer to you so that you're stopping it from turning whilst you get your icing ruler, and having it at an angle of 45 degrees, just lay it on the top of the icing and gently pull it towards you. And then go around the side again, taking off any excess. If you've got any air bubbles or any little rough areas on the surface, all you need to do is repeat that process with the ruler. But that's fairly smooth, and that's absolutely fine for a first coat. We now need to leave it another 12 hours at least, and then we're going to do the second coat on the sides of the cake. Okay, so when the top coat is dried, so you've got one coat on the sides and the top now, we're just going to have a look for any little rough areas, and with a piece of fine sandpaper just smooth them down before we do the second coat. You don't need to be too fussy at this stage because we're going to do this again when the second coat's dry. Okay, when you're happy with that, just flick off the little bits so that they don't get stuck into your icing. And then we repeat the coating process on the sides of the cake. Okay, so same as before, work it round with the palette knife at first, take off any excess from the top, and then we're going to do the thing with the scraper. So starting with both hands up at the top and moving in opposite directions with the hands to meet with only one take-off point. Take off any excess again. And that's fine for the sides. Again, we'll sand that when it's dried. Okay, when the second coat on the side is dry, you repeat the process on the top of the cake. So use the paddling action again with the palette knife, which helps to get rid of the air bubbles. Okay, smooth it round with the palette knife, and as before, take off any excess. And with your icing ruler, again, pull it forward so that you're holding it still and at a 45-degree angle. Straight across with the knife. If you need to go over it again, turn it and have another go. I'm actually going to go with this because it's fairly smooth. Just trim off the edges again. And then when this is completely dry, so perhaps a day or 2 days, we can go over it again with the sandpaper to take off any little rough edges that are left. And then your cake's ready for the decorative work.